and I turned, and it was him and his grandfather. And his grandfather looked at me and was like, what the fuck did you do to her? And he's like, get in the car. So I was like, I got in the car. They took me back to their house, and I like tried to clean myself up the best I could. You know, but I also, so what happened was my mom had called their house and woke them up and was like, Rachel left, I don't know, is she there? Then they realized the car wasn't there, he wasn't there. So when he must have went back home, his grandfather was like, what happened? Like, where? Because think about it, it was a couple hours that I was out there. So he didn't tell them like where I was at first. And they must have, I don't know if because of where I was walking or if he even remembered where I was, but they found me. So they just like, I remember I just went into my room and like locked the door, and I wouldn't let my mom see my face because it was pretty bad. But she knew.
What did she say?
She knew.
What was her reaction?
But I lied.
Yeah. Was she, like, when she first seen you, was she angry? Was she concerned?
No, well, she was like, what happened? You know, and she was just asking me what happened. And did he do this? Which she already knew the answer. She's like, I knew he did. But I just said no. Like, no, it's not what you think. Like, that. I just made like a whole other story up. Like, I don't even remember what I told her. But it wasn't that. So, but that was in the summer. And then I remember I was like, I'm not going to talk to him again. I'm not going to talk to him. Actually went to a friend's house. And I was like, I'm not going to talk to him. It was like 3 days later. I like was like back with them. Like nothing ever happened. Yeah, you know.
And were you pregnant at this time?
No. Well, if I was, I don't think so.
You didn't know yet?
Yeah, because that was in the summer, and I didn't find out I was pregnant till like September.
Okay. And when you guys got back together, how long before something like that happened again?
I mean, it was just kind of, it just kept happening. I wouldn't say, you know, always to that extent, but there was, and don't get me wrong, I also contributed to the, you know, the relationship being toxic. I don't want to say that I didn't, because I did. But there was, I want to say, like, mine was reactive to his abuse. And you know, they're like, it just was very not good.
I think a lot of people that have never experienced that, either way, just automatically assume that it's something it's not. You know what I mean? Like, when situations like that occur, I think a very high majority of the time it's both people fighting, but there's clearly one person who's winning. You know what I mean? It's like both people are fighting, both people are arguing. And it was
like always, I was so crazy, like, oh, look at you, like, look at you, you're so crazy, like, but I'm like, well, wait, like, I would like catch him with other women. You know what I mean? And be like, you know, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and then if I would get upset, he would be like, oh, you're so crazy for acting like this. And I'm like, well, how do you think I'm just gonna respond? Like, I just caught you in our bed with another woman. You didn't think that that was gonna be, you know. And now, granted, that was years, you know, a couple years later. But things like that had happened over and over.
I like to think that all people sort of see is the reaction. They don't see what happens. They don't see the action. You know what I mean? All they see is, damn, Frank just punched somebody in the face, but they didn't see he could have hit me with a bat. And all they seen was, you know, that's what sort of gets the most attention. Is that that reaction. And how did things change, or did they, after you found out you were pregnant?
So they did change. So he actually ended up having to go to jail.
And how old were you at this time when you found out you were pregnant?
16.
16, okay.
So he didn't go to jail right away, but he went to jail for I think most of, like, not the first couple months he was there, but even that, it was like, I think about it, he used to threaten me. Like, if I didn't do what he would want me to do, he'd be like, well, I'm going to tell your mom that you're pregnant. Like, and I'd be like, oh God, no, don't do that. Like, please, like, you know, so, I mean, he wasn't really there, but he went to jail, and it was like, things started getting really well. Like, I wasn't getting high. You know, I was going to school again. I got my permit, I remember, like, well, later I did, because I couldn't get it right away, but I got my permit, and I started, you know, driving, and then he actually came home right before I had, like I was due. He had come home, so he was there, and he did come to the birth. But even after that, I feel like, so I had my son, and I was like so in love with him. Like, literally, I just felt like you couldn't tell me he was not the cutest baby, and everything was going like okay until, so at this time too, I have to tell you, like, through my actions, I ended up I had a probation officer. So I was on probation too, like, during all this, and 2 weeks after I had my son, I relapsed. So, and like, so we both relapsed. It was, and I remember I ended up having to go to my first rehab because my probation officer came in and was like, I'm giving you urine. I don't think you're doing well. I've been hearing things. So he gave me urine, and it came up hot, and he told me he was gonna send me away to a program. So that was the first time then. I think Jordan was like maybe a month or two, like maybe he was like 2 months old at the time. So, because it was during the summer that I had went, so I had relapsed, but I was using for a little bit until, you know, a couple weeks until they came and gave me a drug test, and then I went away to my first program.
And that
an
was
adolescent
for
program.
Opiates?
Yeah.
Okay.
For heroin.
And how was that? What do you remember about that? Your feelings? What were you feeling leaving your son?
Well, I was upset leaving him. I mean, because like I tell you, like, I just felt like he was my world, even though I wasn't doing well. I still felt like, in a way, I was like, well, I'm not being that bad of a mother. But I was like taking him places he shouldn't have, you know, like literally, he was like, now mind you too, he had to be in the hospital for a month because, so I relapsed while he was in the hospital. I didn't get to leave the hospital with him. So it was that's why I feel like it was so easy for me to use.
Why did he have to stay in the hospital?
He ended up having some issues during childbirth, some head trauma, so he ended up having to stay in the NICU. It wasn't due to any, like, I didn't use my pregnancy, I was clean, but it was just, they used a vacuum on his head and it tore the skin off the top, so he ended up having to be in the NICU.
And what was your family's reaction and those around you when they found out you were going to a rehab?
Well, I know my sister, my youngest sister, she wouldn't talk to me. She was really upset. But like, now mind you, we're close in age. We're only like 18 months apart. So during like me using and everything, like, she was in school, so she would hear rumors about me. She was upset because she wasn't like that at all. She didn't use, she didn't get high, she didn't go drink, she was a very well-behaved child, I guess. And so she wouldn't talk to me.
She was like a normal teenager.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
Yeah.
My oldest sister was always very supportive, and my mom was very supportive. But when I got pregnant too, like my dad didn't talk to me either. So I really didn't have a relationship with him. So